Hey, what's going on, my friends? So today, I'm happy to be joined by none other than my youngest child and my only daughter, Jordan Petrick.
Hello, everybody. Yay!
Thanks for joining me tonight, Jordan. I really appreciate you doing this at the last minute. Just happened to be in town, and so I thought, hey, instead of doing this by myself, why don't I have you on, and you can help me figure out all the kinks and the bugs and everything else on here.
Anytime.
Okay. So how was your drive in today?
It was pretty good. There was a rollover accident on the other side of the interstate, so I'm really happy I wasn't on that side coming down.
Okay, so it didn't slow you down at all?
Nope.
I don't know if anybody watching or listening to this knows, but Jordan is going to graduate from the UW-Madison, not the UW-Madison, but from UW-Madison, with a major in biology and world health. Do I have that correct?
Global health.
Global health. Okay. Maybe you can fill me in. So I think everybody probably has a good idea what a biology degree is, but they might not know what a global health degree is, or well, those are your two majors, so they might not know what those are. So maybe you can just kind of tell me a little bit, and maybe people get a little insight into what those both are.
Yeah. Biology is pretty straightforward. I would say ecology, evolution, things like that. You learn about plants a lot and about human life in general. And then the global health aspect is a little bit different because it could be divided into subsections. So you can look into advocacy, you can look into infectious disease, epidemiology, which is the study of disease and how we track them and how we treat them. I'm mostly interested in the infectious disease part of things. I like to learn about different pathogens, viruses, fungi, things like that. So microbiology is kind of my focus there. But in general, most people go into global health to potentially become an advocate for something. So let's say HIV research, if they wanted to help combat HIV prevalence in some specific country, then they would go out to that country and try and advocate for those people, or create plans to administer vaccines in a broad sense.
So it sounds like it's more of an administrative type of role if you're in the global health?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people that go and get their masters in public health become professors too.
Okay. So, and what was your decision to go for a double major and make that your second major?
It's kind of an accident. A lot of the classes that I take involve, like I said, infectious disease biology. So I just happened to stumble across it one day, and I ran a report through the school showing how many classes I would need to take to get that second major. And I was pretty much done with it. So I decided I might as well just add that on. And because I'm hoping to go to medical school, I think it would look good to have 2 bachelors in science as opposed to 1. It was initially a certificate, but that doesn't really do anything. You just tell that to people. You don't actually get a hard piece of paper or anything. No hard copies.
What, the double major you don't? So
yeah.
You can it's just something that you can, when you apply to medical school, you can say, hey, I got this too. So it just shows you that I'm working extra hard to meet my goals, right? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, just like everybody else.
I'm not gonna talk like a college educated person, because I'm not. So I'm gonna say it the way normal dumb people like me would say it, so that hopefully everybody can understand. Because you might be speaking above some people's intelligence, especially if it's my friends. I'm sure you're speaking way above all those guys.
Trying not to.
Well, you don't have to. I mean, you don't have to be condescending about it. I'm just being honest. Like, hey, look, you're probably smarter than most of the people I know. So we'll just keep it real here. So that's cool. I mean, obviously, I know we're getting close to graduation, and me and your mother are very proud. You are soon to be the first and only college graduate in my immediate family, and that's really exciting for us. That's a lot of effort that you have to put into doing that. It's a lot of hard work, so that's good for you. And yeah, I think you're gonna do whatever you want to do. That's what I tell people all the time when they ask me, because they always tell me, they compliment you and they compliment me and your mom a lot of times because of what you do. But some of that credit I don't think we deserve. I think you deserve that credit more than we do, because you're the hard worker. Maybe you learned it from us, but I don't know. You tell me. Yeah,
there's so many things I do want to do. I mean, you call me the doctor lawyer because I want to be a lawyer too. There's so many things. This is a prime example though. I mean, you wanted to do something and you started it and you followed through with it. So I think that's always what both of you taught me. I mean, I had a rocky road throughout high school and whatever else, like everyone else does.
As many of us do. Yeah, right.
Right. But I think it was more so you both sticking to what you told me to do. You never said, it's okay, don't worry about it. We can step back and you can go off and, be this crazy high schooler. You were always like, you need to stay on top of it. And it helped me so much along the way. If you wouldn't have been like that, I don't know where I would be at today.
That's an interesting question. That sounds like a philosophical view of things. Where would I be today? It would have went this way. And that's something that, I don't want to get off topic, but I've been doing some philosophy lessons and doing some meditation recently. So I've been kind of learning about that. And it's interesting, the philosophical view of the world. It's one thing that I guess I can take away from that is that you really shouldn't look back on what's been in the past, and it's not really good to try to look forward to what's going to happen to you in the next hour or tomorrow. A lot of people get a lot of anxiety. They start to worry about the things that they haven't happened yet. So some of these philosophy lessons, and part of the reason that people do meditation is to try to calm your mind so that you're not basically going crazy in your own head, worrying about everything all the time. So it's interesting that you say that. It's just kind of a little bit of a connection there, I guess.
I feel like I'm one of the people that kind of sheds a negative light on that type of stuff.
Why is that?
Well, for example, I just had an assignment in one of my classes. It's an agronomy class, so it's agriculture and things like that. But my professor is very big on having us reflect every day. Mm-hmm. So every single class, we have to answer 4 questions. I don't remember them exactly, but one of them's, how are you feeling? What are your thoughts? How was your work today? And one other one. But he doesn't like us actually answering the prompts. He wants us to respond in how we are reacting to those prompts. And I get kind of frustrated because I can tell someone how I feel about something or how I think I did in a day. But when we start going into that spiral of, well, how do you feel about that? But how do you feel about what you feel? It starts to, so meditation, definitely, I think it's a good practice. I tried it for a while. It just doesn't really work because of the setting that I'm in. I mean, I live with other people and it's just crazy everywhere. So
you know what? Let me tell you something interesting about that. Because this, I use an app. And I'm not going to say it here because I'm not getting paid by anybody to do any of this stuff. So I'm not giving free drops, man. I'll say, Sam Harris, you want to give me a call and get some advertising in here, be my guest. But no, anyways. So I use an app called Waking Up by a guy named Sam Harris. He's got a PhD in philosophy. Seems to be from what I've kind of came across him on YouTube, just doing what I do, scrolling, going down the rabbit hole or whatever. Actually, I learned of him mostly. He spoke to another guy that I like a lot, Jordan Peterson. I'm sure you've heard me say that more than once. But they have opposing views on things, and they have some good conversations. And I think because of it, and it enlightened me a little bit on the way the world is supposed to work rather than how it does work most of the time. Because here you have 2 people that are very intelligent men, and they have kind of opposing views on something, but they're able to have this great conversation about it. And that's not something you see a lot nowadays anymore. It interests me. And so I downloaded the app and I tried it and I thought, I really kind of like this. And the approach that he has to it is a little bit different than what I guess I would have expected. Some of the meditations that I do are actually like having your eyes open and taking in all your surroundings and focusing on everything that's going on all at once kind of thing. So which you would think would be an oxymoron. You would think that'd be the exact opposite of what meditation is. But his approach to it is actually more along the lines of kind of getting your mind to focus. So a practice that I haven't done yet is doing a walking meditation. And then another one that I'm supposed to do at some point is like go to an airport, for an example, and do a meditation in an airport with your eyes open and just taking in people as they come and go and just just focusing on your surroundings and things like that. And it's just really a different approach. So I think maybe the old school way of thinking about meditation, maybe that's kind of what most people think. And Sam's taken a different approach to it, and I really like it. But I can tell you that from what I do it, I try to do it every day, and it's about 10 minutes long. It really just gets me, even if it's only a couple minutes out of that 10 minutes, it gets my mind to kind of declutter and clear. And it gives your mind just a few minutes of peace, to put it that way. And that really gives me clarity on a lot of things. It really helps me a lot. So, I mean, he doesn't take the approach like you said with your professor, like you ask a question and then, okay, now you answered the question that you're supposed to ask about yourself. And then, then you have to ask a question about why you answered the question that way. And then it just keeps going down. Yeah, I can see why that would be frustrating. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I took a philosophy class, and I think philosophy is really interesting, but just some of the ways that some people go about, talking about life or where we should be or where we used to be, I just don't really entertain it. I don't know. I'm very rational, like here and now, what's going on. That's what I want to talk about.
Sure. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. You need people from, all sides of that. You need rational people because there's a lot of irrational people in the world. That's no doubt. Cool. I think I'm all caught up on everything that's going on in your life. Not really, but at least that, it's cool to get the insight on your school. We don't talk like this very often, like get in depth. We talk all the time, but not this kind of stuff. Not formal like this, where you got to, be on your game.
Yeah. And that I take non-science classes too. I take some random classes here and there that are just for fun.
So here's something since we're talking about school, I'll just be honest. I have a problem with this. So you go to school and you say, I want to get a biology degree. And then they say, okay, you need to take these classes, right? But then there's all these other classes that really have nothing to do with biology that you need to take these too. And some of that I can understand to a point, to give people, I would say, some culture and maybe something that they're not normally used to. But some of it I'm thinking like, it's kind of absurd. I'm like, why are you making people, because it's not cheap, right? So then you got kids that are spending all this money to go to get an education for something that hopefully is going to, give them a career and give them a path and make them happy in life. But then you're like, you need to take this stupid ass class because we said so. I'm like, that to me never really made sense. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, but I guess I'm curious. I'd like to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, the way that it's structured, it's different for every single major. So, like my roommate, for example, is in the business school, so she takes classes all in the business school. None that come out of that. Maybe a couple here and there. But after the gen eds, I have my humanities, my social sciences, and then my communications A and B, which are usually like literature classes. Those extra classes that you hear me talking about, like I'm taking a gemology class and a gen biz class, so a business class on marketing and entrepreneurship, those are really my choice. We have to have a certain amount of electives that we take, but it starts to get hard with my major specifically because each class is ranked in terms of difficulties from elementary, intermediate, and then advanced. And for my major, I have to have so many intermediate and advanced. So if I want to take these willy-nilly classes, like we have one called Clap for Credit, performances, you literally just go to class, there's a performance. If you are in attendance, you are getting an A in that class. It's no work, no assignments outside of class. That's elementary.
Is there a professor for that class?
I'm sure there is, yeah.
Oh, wait,
I know a couple of people. I can't take it because it's lower.
So that's Maddie. So wait a minute. Is this something Maddie takes or
other people that I know?
Okay, other people that can take a class like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, I would assume there's got to be a professor for that class.
Yeah.
They wouldn't just
we have wine. We have classes where you're drinking wine in them. So it's
I guess I'm going to college. I'm in now.
I mean, yeah, some of the majors are like a lot less demanding as far as what classes specifically you have to take. I mean, I have to hit my biochem, my physics, and those things. If you're doing a communications major or some of the other majors that they offer there through my school, you can pretty much just pick and choose whatever you want as long as you hit your for gen eds or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I can't really speak on classes that I think are irrelevant to take because I kind of have the choice. I mean, why I have taken more chemistry and physics than I have biology, and I'm a biology major, I have no idea. I don't know why they make us do that. But in terms of like the humanities classes, I think those are good for us. I mean, my humanities, I fulfilled that through a music class, which was composing music, which I think is important for the creative mind.
Sure.
And you can choose many other things. Yeah, you can go and do art, you can do oil painting, or you can do something in the culinary field. There's so many things you can pick from. And then the ethnic studies, I think, is also important because then you can get a sense of other cultures. And
do you really need to be in college to have that? Like, so the way I think about it, like if your parents are raising you right, you're probably going to have a good idea of other cultures, right? Because you're not being sheltered from everything and they're teaching you. To me, I find that to be like, that should be like general, I don't want to say general knowledge, but that's something people should know. I mean, because we live amongst, you know, especially in America, we have so many cultures, so many different people, that it's in our everyday lives, where, you know, there is some aspect of it in our everyday lives. So I'm like, well, you know, you have to pay for that. Like, you should already know that. They shouldn't have to teach you that in college. But I guess maybe not everybody has had the same upbringing. So maybe I'll keep an open mind about that.
I agree that we should know it, but I feel like not enough people do, because there's people in the world that will see something out of the normal. I would put that in quotations.
What does that
something
mean?
that is your own normal, something that's not you.
I gotcha.
And they won't go home and research or look into it or just try to learn about things. They'll just see that as foreign and then not want to deal with that. Like, same thing we think about a lot of things. I mean, if you see, I don't know, a car with like 18 wheels on it, 25 wheels, we're like, ooh, I don't know what that is. And you're not paying attention to it. But people like me, I would go back and say, like, what is this for? Why do we have it? And I don't think there's enough people in the world that do that. So
okay,
I think it's good that they're incorporating that.
Your thoughts on that actually are a perfect segue to the next thing that I'd like to talk about. And I recently wrote a blog, shared it on Facebook. I mean, I'm not a writer. I'm definitely not a social media guru, so I don't know, maybe I should be sharing that thing somewhere else. But my whole reason for writing the blog is because it was about a topic that I felt was important. But I know social media and like Facebook, because people my age, that's basically what I use for a platform for social media. I'm not on TikTok or any of those other ones. I am on Twitter or X, as it's known now, but I haven't been on there in forever because it's not fun anymore. It was fun when I first went on there, but I just don't go on there. I'm too busy for that stuff, really, because I'd rather spend my time doing other things. But the blog thing, I wrote the blog because I know social media. I've seen plenty of posts from people that I know, people that are friends of mine. When they want to make a point, they write this really long post on social media and nobody reads it because they're not interested after the first sentence. They're like, I'm just like, nah. And they've seen it before. And a lot of people do that. So, and I realize that because I'm notorious for doing that too. When I see people do that, I'm like, I am checked out right away. I'm like, I don't want to listen to you pontificate for the next half an hour on Facebook about something that we probably don't agree on. So generally, I feel like it's the wrong platform. But I have changed my thought on that a little bit because a lot of people go on there, and I felt like in the case that what we're going to talk about here is that it was important to put a shorter post on Facebook and then put the link to the blog so that it gave people the opportunity, if they wanted to see how I elaborated on what I was thinking, they could do that. And it's their choice. And it, so I just kept it short to make my point. And obviously we both know what that was, and it's about our upcoming election. I don't feel good about either one of the candidates that we're probably going to be voting for. I mean, we know Joe Biden's the president right now, and in all likelihood, it's going to be Donald Trump is going to be the guy that's running against him. And full disclosure, I voted for Trump the first time through, but I'll tell you, I didn't vote for him in the primary. And I know a lot of other people that did not either. But what we all do, if you view yourself as a conservative or if you view yourself as a Democrat, when it gets down to it, the last two people in the race on those political parties, you're picking the one that you feel is the best candidate for you, the lesser of two evils. That's the way everybody always puts it. And it, when Donald Trump left office, it just left a bad taste in my mouth because I just was kind of blown away about how childish he seemed to act about it. And then he stirred up some things into people like, who the My Pillow guy is, right? I make fun of your brother about that. That guy's lost. I mean, that guy's out there too. That guy's thoroughly convinced that we need to take the voting machines and open them up and have everybody inspect all the voting machines because he thinks that their voting machines are actually changing votes. Like the ballot goes in and it takes your vote from voting to Republican to Democrat. Oh, and by the way, it only goes one way, right? It never takes your vote from Democrat and changes it to Republican. Now, does that seem logical to you?
Right. Absolutely not.
It's not, right? So that's kind of what I was thinking about. And so that's why I wrote the blog about that. And so one thing that I wanted to kind of elaborate on, and hopefully you can help me do that. A big reason I think that people... I think Donald Trump is responsible for a lot of hatred when it comes to people that have opposing political views. Everybody looks at the leader of America for everything because America is the country that everybody, I would say they want to be, even if they say they don't. Because, if you look at what we've done in this country in such a short amount of time throughout history, we've probably invented more things than anybody else has. We've had the best economy. We still have a great economy. And we give everybody in this country more opportunities than you get anywhere else in the world. Then there's a reason that people are lining up to get in here, okay? And you hear a lot of people talk all the time about how terrible it is here. And I just think to myself, I'm like, yeah, things could be better, but they could be a lot worse too. I think people lose sight of that stuff a lot, like how bad it is in other countries and how bad it has been in other countries throughout history. So as far as, Donald Trump being somebody that I feel is definitely fueling the fire as far as, divisiveness and people just being mean to each other and finding that to be acceptable, because when they see him speak, he makes that acceptable. He treats everybody like that. And personally, I feel like a lot of it's an act. He does that on purpose because he knows that he can get people to be on his side. He can get people to be behind him if he does that because they're like, yeah, because social media, one thing that social media has done, Mike Tyson, I think, said this. I'll probably butcher his quote, but Mike Tyson said, within the last couple of years, the gist of what he said everybody got too comfortable basically with offending everybody and saying disrespectful things to people, because if you say that to somebody in person, there's a good likelihood you might get socked in your fucking mouth. Social media provides a wall for that, because you can just say whatever you want because there's no consequences to that. Because what are you going to do? Actually, it's even worse than no consequences. It's even what happens when people say things like on social media and they get controversial people and they say shitty things to them. They actually end up in this positive feedback loop, because they learn that they can say these things to people and they can all of a sudden they get either likes from people or they get a bunch of people saying stuff back to them and they get in this big argument. And then they go, I feel like the tough guy because I'm behind my computer desk and nobody can beat me up because of what I said. So then they find a reason to do it more and more and more. And that's what trolls are. You find these trolls, that's all they do. And some of them are bots, some of them are real people. That's all they do on social media. They just do that kind of stuff all day long. They just rile people up and say assholey things to people. And I think it's fueled a little bit by Donald Trump. I don't know. Do you agree or disagree with that? Do you have anything to expound on?
Well, I was going to say two things about Trump and saying explicit things or disrespectful things online. I feel like for him, any publicity is what he wants. Mm-hmm. Whether it's negative or positive, the more social media platforms that he's seen on and the more people that it reaches, that's better for him. So I do agree that a lot of these things he's just saying just to get a rise out of other people, and some of the people that are, as some call extremists, or really rooting.
That's a new phrase.
Yeah, rooting for Trump since 2020 and now 2024. That's getting them more on his side, but it's pushing other people away. But I think in all, the publicity is what he's looking for, whether it's positive or negative. And then also about the trolls, I think it's really interesting that when people have something to say, especially if it's disrespectful or it's super like outrageous, they don't have a username, and if they do, it's just a bunch of random letters and numbers, and they don't have a profile picture. They don't have their information connected to the account. It's always the people that's behind the screen. And as we have learned, and many other people have, if you have that personal information out there about you, they're going to come find you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's also getting taken too far now.
Yeah, well, people don't realize it. That's why you see people playing these stupid games like, hey, I would have been a wolf in my other life, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they're just trying to get your personal information. I hope you realize that.
Right.
And then that's what, the very next day I'll see somebody had posted something like that. Oh, I've been hacked. Don't accept anything from me. Like, yeah. Are you surprised?
Right, exactly. Yeah, and now we're moving into this cancel culture, quote unquote, is what it's called, and I'm sure you've heard of it.
I have heard of it. Actually, yeah. Well, there's somebody else I'd like to speak to about that, because somebody else tries to dismiss that I know. Well, maybe it's the wrong way to say it, but I know somebody that feels differently about it that I'd like to speak to about that too, because I feel it's a real thing. It is definitely a real thing. Like, you say something that's the very faintest bit controversial, and everybody wants to, like you said, they want to cancel you. Like, no, you can't say that. Like, why can't you say that?
Yeah.
Like, that's what conversation really is. Sometimes you need to say things that might slightly offend somebody, or might not be the thing that they want to hear, but you can't make progress without people having conversations and being able to have those conversations without wanting to kill each other. I mean, like, we're never all going to agree on everything, ever, never, ever. So that's the whole point of, like, having conversations, being able to be cordial and have conversations like that.
Right.
But, so the social media aspect, did you have something to say about that?
Yeah. I firsthand am guilty of seeing things sometimes, and then I'll start spreading around. Oh, did you see that on TikTok, or did you see that on whatever? I personally am not a user of Twitter or X anymore. I just disabled my entire account, because what I used to use it for was funny pictures or whatever, funny videos, and then it turned into the entire feed was just politics over and over again, and it wasn't any real news. I mean, it was just like, I'm mad about this and I'm frustrated about this, and people arguing back and forth. So I ended up disabling my account because I just didn't want to see that anymore. But I think it definitely plays a big role in people's lives. I mean, I'm in college, and I go to a liberal arts school. Most of the people that I go to school with, I would say I identify as liberal people or Democrats. But I mean, when I'm in a normal conversation with one of my peers and they'll say, well, I saw this on TikTok the other day, and I just want to say, how can you back that up? How do you know that that's what it is?
Right.
But
That's a good question to ask too.
I am guilty of it, of seeing things and then saying things. But I'm the type to look further into it. But personally, I do think that I need some more education on where to find credible sources and who to actually listen to, because at this point, those credible sources are drowned out by sponsors on Google and like all of these other websites that are not non-biased.
It's very hard. And you know what? I can't remember exactly where I saw this, but they were actually, it was like a little course where they were talking about like how to find news sources. And I find it it's crazy nowadays that we actually have to have guidelines on where to find real news, because it's so rampant with the fake news stuff, which is where I was going to go before when I was cutting you off just a minute ago. I was going to go right into that, because that's part of what my blog was about was, the people get so much information from social media, and there's so much bad information on social media, and people have just become so accustomed to they believe anything that anybody that if they think somebody's credible, whether they are or not, they're just throwing this stuff out there for everybody to see without taking 1 second of their time to see if it's true or not. And then what makes it worse is there's one person that does that, and then another person does that, and then everybody's doing it. Next thing you know, everybody's sharing the same damn meme or the same damn stupid video made by some guy in his basement who has no idea of the topic that he's talking about, but he took one little bit of something and he chopped it all up and edited everything and made it sound like he knew what he was talking about, but he doesn't. Again, going for clicks and likes and like, hey, if I put this out there and I say this, people are going to like me for saying it. So I actually pulled up some stats today. So, and I made notes of them because this is very interesting to me. So, I got this information from Pew Research Center. Have you heard of them? They're a data collection. There's a nonpartisan nonprofit website. They collect a lot of data. They take surveys and polls and stuff, and they collect data on all kinds of stuff. So I looked this up because I wanted to have a good idea of what I was talking about. So 30% of people on social media regularly get their news from Facebook. 30%, okay? 20% on YouTube, 16% Instagram, 14% TikTok, 12% Twitter, okay? Some of those are a little bit down, and this is 2023. 2022 was a little higher on some of those. It's funny, I was looking at the chart, and TikTok has actually gone way up. A lot more people get their news from TikTok, right? Part of that is what led to my blog, is because I see people sharing these things that they consider news, and that's where they're consuming it on these sites. And it's not news. It's not stuff that people have researched or fact-checked or any of that stuff. And I'm not talking about Facebook fact-checkers because that's bullshit too. And I'm going to tell you that, number one. Like, I've seen enough Facebook fact-check crap to just like blow my brains out. But anybody that's got, you can figure that out for yourself too. But I've been like you. I've always been like you. Like when something doesn't seem right, I just dig. And basically, a good place to start is to find a place in the middle. So if you got one source saying this and you got another source on the other extreme saying this, then start in the middle and find some, because there's probably something that's got some truth in it there. And then another thing you could do to find news, and I know this takes work and it sucks that it does, but this is the world we live in. You have to work to get your factual information. You can't just believe everything you see because so much of that stuff is fake. But you can go to the source. So like if somebody says, oh, did you hear what so-and-so did down in Alabama? That governor just banned everything. You can't drink soda or you can't eat sugar. And you're like, well, that doesn't seem right to me. So like, what do? Guess where you can go to do that? Every website, every government, every state government has a website. Every bill they pass is listed on there. You can go pull the damn bill for yourself and read that stupid thing. It's long and it's full of lawyer speak, but you can find what you need to find in there and you can find out if it's true or not. And that's usually where that stuff lies. And I know that's not easy for people to do, but maybe there just needs to be more people like me and you out in the world that go, hey, we're just going to present you with the facts here. We're not going to skew this one bit. We're just going to say, here, this is what's in the bill. You take it for what it is, kind of thing. Because there is a lot of that. And that's a lot of what has to do with the whole Trump. The whole reason that I'm just like anti-Trump now is because it just seems to like, that is just like, what it's supercharged, people feeling that way. I'm like, I don't know. I kind of feel like if that dude gets elected, people are going to be careful what you wish for, man. Things were good. And that's generally how people generally base everything off of like, hey, was things good for me when this guy was president? So then they think, well, I'll just vote for him again. Like, but you overlook a bunch of things that I'm like, I'm just not willing to do that anymore. So
I think it's going to be really difficult to try and get people to find credible news sources, because your instant reaction when you see something that you agree with, you're going to like it or you're going to share it.
Oh, yeah.
People are satisfied when they see something they agree with, but they have to understand that these people behind the screen that are posting these things, or these influencers or even politicians, they're saying these things because they know that's what you want to hear.
Exactly.
And people just don't want to do that extra work, unfortunately.
Well, and it's good that we're talking about it, because then maybe somebody might watch or listen to this and they might realize that, like, hey, maybe I should put in a little bit more work, because, like, here we are, just regular people, and we can figure out a way to do it. Why can't everybody else?
Right.
I'm not saying why can't everybody else, but it's possible. People can definitely do it. So I was going to move right into the topic of the year for me right now, because we're kind of talking about the presidential election and everything. So the topic of the year for me to be, if I have any guests on, I'm going to ask them the same stuff. We know that the ages of our presidents are, so Trump is 77. So if he ends up being the candidate, he's going to be 77. He might even be 78 by the time he gets elected. I don't know his birthday because I don't give a shit. And Biden's 81. Now, it seems kind of old to me. I'm like, so I think if Joe Biden gets reelected, that dude's going to be like 86 or 87 by the time he's done president. And I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. That dude, he's got cognitive issues. If you ever watch him speak, he's definitely not all there anymore. And I'm not saying that because because I'm a conservative. I'm saying that because I see it. And anybody, if you watch any amount of time and you watch him speak, like, he ain't all there. And I find that to be a problem if you're going to be the president of the United States. I don't find that to be a good characteristic. And it's not his fault. I mean, he's getting old, and, that happens to people. Grandpa Ed had Alzheimer's, It just happens. And, Trump, I'll say this. I mean, people like to call him deranged and everything else, but I think he knows exactly what he's doing. I'll say that. And I find that kind of interesting because they're like literally 4 years apart in age. But I think that Donald Trump, if you look at him, he definitely knows what he's doing. Now he just pukes out of his mouth and doesn't, he just says random things because that's just the way he's always spoken. If you've ever watched him, even when he was younger, he's a weirdo, man. And he speaks weird. And like you said, he says things on purpose because he knows that he's going to get people riled up, or they're going to like what he has to say, or it puts him in the limelight. And that's what he really wants, is to be in the limelight. So it's interesting that they're two, they're fairly close in age, but you can see one guy's got more mental problems than the other, as far as I'm concerned. But I'm curious, like, what people think about, like how do you feel about the age of the current president and the most likely candidate that'll be running against him? How do you feel about that?
I think that the age is totally unfitting for our country. I was just thinking about it. I mean, statistically speaking, as you age, you are more at risk for many different diseases and potential disabilities that you might run into later in life. And especially with Joe Biden right now, and like you said, the cognitive problems that he's facing, I mean, they're only going to get worse from here on out. And Alzheimer's or dementia, once those things start progressing, they progress really fast, and things get really bad. So, I mean, we can't continue to innovate things and introduce new technology and pass bills and make policies when we have someone leading that can't even make a full sentence. So that makes it difficult. But I think in terms of age, when I think about it, a lot of the problems in the country and many other countries right now that people are talking about, they like to say, think about our future generations and think about, your grandkids. But then we have people that are making the decisions for the grandkids that aren't going to be around for 10, 15 years longer, as if, like, you don't even know if they will be around that much longer. So I find that really interesting because as a young person, professors and other influencers and everyone says to me, I mean, you have to make this change now. And I think a lot of us in this generation are willing to do things to change, to help our future. But we have people that are in charge that won't be here for the future. Right. We still will be, but they won't. So I think really in terms of what age we should be looking at, or what we should be seeing more in office, is the average age of a working American citizen. I mean, I don't know exactly what it is to put the numbers there, but I'm sure. Do you know what it is?
No, I'll just give you what my opinion is. Nobody knows what it is, but I can give you my opinion on what I think the ideal age is. I personally feel it's between 45 and 60.
Yeah.
Is the ideal age, because by the time you're 45, you're definitely grown up and mature. You may have had a family by then. You most definitely probably have a career. And if you don't, then you're not running for public office because you can't get your own shit together. So you certainly aren't running for public office, and because nobody's going to vote for you, because they're going to be like, your life's a mess. Like, why would we vote for you? But anyways, so by the time you're 45 or 50, that age range, you've gained enough experience and knowledge in your life that you can speak to what a lot of people probably want in their lives, what regular people want. You can see it from their point of view, and then you can see what the younger generations is looking like and what they might need, what their needs are. And you can also see, because if you're at that age between 45 and 60, you probably, likely you may have parents that are older than you that are still alive, and you can see what their needs are, right? So you have this whole spectrum that you can have a perspective from all that. When you're 80 years old, you just want to know where your oatmeal is. When you're 20 years old, you just want to know where you can go, depending on if you're a guy or girl, you got, probably one or two things on your mind. And I mean, if you're in college, you just want to go party. You're not trying to worry about like what kind of decisions I make are going to impact every generation after me. You don't give a shit about that, right? So that's why I think, between 45 and 60, I was thinking about that. I think that's where it should be. And it's funny, Bill Burr. The comedian Bill Burr. Oh, he's been in a bunch of stuff. I went and saw him live this year. He's funny as hell. He was on a talk show and he said it perfectly. He said, I'm tired of all these old guys in here. He said, I want somebody that's like 50 years old or 45. He said, because I want them to deal with the consequences of the policies they put in place. Because he's like somebody like Biden, he'll probably be dead he has to deal with the consequences of the decisions that he made. And he's right. I agree with that 100%. I would like to see it, be somebody younger in that age range.
I mean, think about how long Joe Biden's going to have to deal with promising everybody $10,000 to $20,000 off of their school loans. I mean, not very much longer. So,
well, that's nothing but pandering. All he's doing is trying to pander to the younger people to try to get votes, because he's actually treating younger people like you're stupid. Mm-hmm. This is what he's doing. He's treating you like you're stupid people, and that you go, oh, you can give me money. I'm going to vote for you. Nobody realizes at the end of the day, the term that I really hate, and I think I'm going to stop using it, is free. Because there is not one thing that's free. Nothing is free. Somebody pays for that along the line, and I'm not even saying it's money wise. Somebody is paying for that somewhere down the line. There's, if you talk to a philosophical major, they might tell you, there's might be something free. Like, you're free to make your own choices, right? But you have consequences for the choices you make. But when it comes to public policy and stuff like that, when you throw that free term out there ain't shit free. It ain't never free. Somebody's paying for that somewhere. And generally we're all paying for it in one form or another. So, be careful when you take that free stuff that they say, hey, it's great. I'm going to wipe out your college debt. Oh yeah? And you just pissed off everybody that's paying for it. You think they're going to be real happy about that? I'm like, nah. Yeah, it's pandering. It's shameful. But that they all do it. The politicians do it on both sides. They just want to, keep people voting for them. So, do you think that maybe we should have some sort of policy in place putting a limit on the age of being a president? I mean,
I feel like kind of in an ideal world we could maybe, but then I feel like
do that is the question.
Exactly.
Right,
it would be taken as ageism or something like that.
Right, exactly. Because you can't really say somebody that's 80 years old there, because there are people, and I've talked to them that are that old, that are like, they're like all there, man. You wouldn't even realize like, man, you're 80. But then I've talked to people that are 40. I'm like, man, this guy's out of his mind. You know what I mean? So that's really hard to do that. But something I kind of thought about a little bit, like maybe, and this would turn out to be a sham, because it always does when it comes to our government. But maybe you could have them take legitimately take like a cognitive test. So like every year, like when you're president, like you have to prove that you're not losing your mind kind of thing, right? But it would have to be by a doctor that's nonpartisan and it's not part of the government, because otherwise they're just going to have some dude just say, oh, yeah, he's fine. Like Trump. Trump's a good one for that. I had the doctor check me out. I'm in the best condition I could ever be. I'm at physical peak. I'm like, no, you're not. You're a doughboy. I'm like, who are you fucking kidding? Like, nobody believes that shit. You might believe it, but anybody that can see you, like, okay, whatever you say, dude. So anyways, I mean, that's the fallacy about all that stuff, because they'll just find some dude and pay him off, and he'll just say, oh, you're fine. And then you're walking around drooling out of the side of your mouth because, you know, the right side of your brain doesn't work anymore or whatever, because you have, what is it, what did I learn in that book, that Oliver Sacks book? I learned some neurological terms. I'm trying to be smart, but I can't remember them, so I can't be smart.
I'm trying to think of what you're thinking of, but I don't know.
Aphasia.
Oh, okay.
You have aphasia. What's another one that's that starts the same? Maybe it's aphasia that I was thinking of. But yeah. So
yeah, I think it would be too difficult to try and put a cap on it. I mean, everybody always says that you shouldn't be able to run after this age, but you know, just like you said, there's got to be things to back it up, because somebody somewhere is going to complain and it's going to cause issues. Nobody's ever going to be happy. So then it's kind of like we have to start thinking down the line then. I mean, the people that were electing for office in like in an area like here in Wisconsin, I mean, because people tend to move their way up. I mean, it's like maybe we could start there and start thinking of it that way, but
I agree.
How many people are really proactive like that? Not many, I don't think.
No, but it'd be nice if people were more like that. I mean, yeah, it really is kind of like, I mentioned this in my blog towards the end of it, that, you know, I'd like to see a revolution in this country, and, you know, a political revolution. And it really, it takes effort, and it takes for at least one person to start saying, hey, enough is enough. I'm not doing this anymore. And I'm going to put the effort in and the thought into, I want to try to give an alternative view or an alternative solution to what's going on. And, you know, I don't have that yet. I'm certainly thinking about it. And I think maybe part of the solution is doing what I'm doing now and speaking about that kind of stuff and trying to come at it as somebody that's definitely a conservative. I mean, there's no doubt about it that I have a conservative mind, and that's the way I think about things. But I'm not as naive of a person to think that you can exist with only the conservative people in this world, because it doesn't work that way. I mean, the checks and balances things that, you know, the way we set up this republic is, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to do it that way, because if you let just one faction go run rampant with everything, they're all going to have it their way. And some of the things that they want to do aren't great, but they think they are, and vice versa. Some of the things that the other factions want to do, some are great, some are not. And you just can't let one side like do everything. I mean, if you want to be that way, go and live in a totalitarian country. Then you can have it exactly the way you want it and see where that leads. I could go on for a long time about stuff like that, because I've been reading so many history books on that kind of stuff, and it's like, it sticks in my mind, because I think our leaders are very well educated in that kind of stuff, because they use some of the tactics that I read in these books, and I just shake my head and I'm like, man, I don't know what the hell is going on. I'm like, I wish people knew the same stuff that I knew, because I think everybody would view it a little bit differently. So, but yeah, we talked way too much about politics. Maybe I'll cut half this shit out of here, because nobody gives that shit about that much. But maybe they do. Hey, if you do, good for you for hanging around. So I think this is a good time to segue into a topic, a reoccurring theme, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to have on this, and it's called a Bitch of the Day. So today's Bitch of the Day is I'm going to use something that was recently happened to me. And it's going to be driving in a car, which a lot of these bitch of the days will probably be the same thing. So recently, I'm driving, you know, in my work truck, and I'm driving back from a job, and I pull up to an intersection, right? And I'm turning left. I'm sure you've been there. We've all been there. So I'm in the left lane, and there's a car in front of me, and we're both turning left. and the light turns green, and we're at the intersection, and the guy in front of me is doing what?
On his phone.
No, he was not on his phone.
No.
No, that's a different bitch of the day. No, that deserves its own bitch of the day. No, he's sitting at the light while the light is green and cars are coming and going, right? And what should you be doing?
Going.
You should be in the intersection, right? You took driver's ed. I don't know if you remember this, but when I took driver's ed, I remember this specifically. They taught me that when you're at an intersection and you're making a left turn, that you should pull out into the intersection, because if the light turns red while you're waiting for traffic to, come through for your turn, that you legally are allowed to make that turn after the light turns red. Do you remember that?
Right, yes.
Okay, so you remember that too?
Everybody does, yeah.
Well, your mom didn't remember that, so I was bringing it up to her, and she looked at me like I was a nut job, but she does that all the time. She always looks at me, and I might be a nut job, but I'm like, so it really pisses me off. Like, I'm sitting at an intersection trying to make a left turn, and some dude is in front of me, and he's like sitting at the light and not pulling out in the intersection. So what does he do? As soon as the light turns yellow, he pulls out and then he goes. And where am I sitting? Waiting for the fucking light to turn green again, right? Yep. What's up with that shit? And so is that just being selfish, or is that being an asshole on purpose, or just being plain old stupid?
I feel like it's probably just being stupid. I mean, maybe people don't know that you can pull out into the middle before, the light turns yellow. But no, I hate that too. That happens to me all the time. But I don't think it's somebody just trying to be an asshole. I think they're
You don't think so?
Yeah, no. I think that people are not self-aware, and that things aren't happening up here. So they're just waiting.
I personally feel like falls in all those categories. I think that you can see that from anybody. Yeah. This particular guy, I could see him. He was an older gentleman than I was. So, and part of me was thinking, like, you probably learned the same shit that I learned. I'm like, I don't know if they just started teaching it when I went to high school. They, when they had a horse and buggy, because that's probably how old he was, that they didn't teach that when you had to learn how to drive a horse and buggy. But no, he wasn't that old. He was maybe like 10 years. I'm judging just from the looks that I could see in his mirror that he might have been 10 years older, but I'm like, he probably knows that too. And if he doesn't know that, you should fucking know that. I mean, it's real easy, but I get this kind of stuff. I'm like, really? I'm like, it's not that hard. Pull on the fucking intersection. Make your turn. Move on. Let's all get on with our lives. I got better things to do than wait at red lights because you don't want to turn.
Right.
Or do you think it might be fear? Maybe they're just afraid to turn?
No.
Or do you think the cops are going to come and like slam them down on the ground and arrest them because you went through a red light even though it's perfectly legal?
Yeah.
No? Okay. Well, it's not much of a rant. It wasn't a great bitch of the day, but I just kind of did off the cuff that one because I wasn't really ready. Smack my microphone around.
Can I do a bitch of the day?
Of course you can do bitch of the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will.
You want to say my saying too, or
no? It's
you
fine.
Want to come up with your own? What's your bitch of the day?
It's pretty general, but it's when people, either when they don't say excuse me, or, here's an example. I'm in the store today, and I'm at the thrift store shopping around trying to find some cute shirts.
Trying to pop some tags?
I was popping some tags like Macklemore, and I'm shuffling through the shirts, and there's a person standing next to me, a woman, and she's just staring at me, but I could see her out of my peripheral, and I'm like, yep, I'm not saying anything. I'm not even going to look at her or move out of the way. Finally, 2 minutes later, I'm still looking at these shirts, and she's still standing there, and I said, did you want to look at these? She's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, okay. And then I move away. Or just people not saying, excuse me. You're in the grocery store, and someone's just staring at you with the cart right behind you, and you turn around, you're like, Did you need to go through? And they're like, oh, yeah. Like, just speak up. Just say something. It drives me crazy.
Well, I'll say this. What the fuck you in everybody's way?
Right. I had a guy today when
Move the cart over, bro.
When I was in Piggly Wiggly, I'm walking, and someone said, hey, you with the purple shirt. And I turn around, and he goes, what the fuck are you looking at? I was like, what? So then I walked away, and then I went over to the flowers because I was getting flowers for Mom, and he's behind me. He's like, who are you buying flowers for? And I just left. I mean, I went to self-checkout, and I left. I'm like, what's his problem? His head with
them flowers. Like,
I don't know.
Hey, you need some flowers?
I know. I'm like, what is people's problem
Let me
today?
brighten your day.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. But yeah, just if you're in a store, everybody, please just say, excuse me. Don't stare at people like a creeper. It drives us crazy. The people that are normal out here.
Yeah. You know what most of these bitches of the days are going to be about? It's going to be just about being self-aware. I can tell you that right now because that's what everybody's always complaining about. Like, where the fuck yeah. Anyways, I got a lot of these to do, so I'm not going to say them all tonight. So, all right. Well, it was Yeah, we've been talking for a while. It's been really good talking to you, but I do want to finish up with one last thing, and I want to talk about your Minecraft addiction that you have, since you had to come all the way down here from Madison and make me pay $20 plus the dollar tax, of course, because the government's got to get their cut on the video game. Why do you have such a bad addiction with Minecraft?
It's not an addiction. I haven't played in a long time. I just thought about it because you have an Xbox and I really wanted to play. I think it's really fun because you just you start from nothing and you can get so far. I mean, you can have diamonds. You can have the riches. I don't know. It's kind of like a comfort game for me because that's what I played with Kyle, and then as I grew up, my friends would come over and we'd play Minecraft together, just building, being creative, trying to make new random things, houses and whatnot. And it doesn't take a lot of brain power. You really just sit there and you just build stuff, and it's a good time. And then they added all these cool features. You can train dogs, you can get saddles to ride a horse, and then it's your own horse. I mean, it's just glorified like any of those other games. We used to play Webkins or Club Penguin, all of those things I
don't know what those are.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're both gone now, unfortunately, but when I was a kid, but they, you start with a character and you build up from there.
Sure.
And that's really all it is.
It's kind of like the Skyrim game that I play, but from what it sounds like you're saying, it's like, it's a good like disconnect from just reality, just not worry about all the daily stuff that you normally do. And why don't I do this for a while?
Right.
Which is why I, from time to time, will play Skyrim and I'll just murder people left and right with my giant sword because, hey, I can disconnect from reality and I can do things that I wouldn't be able to do in the real world. I can go kill a dragon,
right.
Or I can steal some guy's horse, and if he yells at me, I can chop his head off for doing it. It's like, yeah. So, yeah, I get it. Yeah. It's nice to disconnect from reality. So I was going to let you go, but then I thought of one other thing. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And maybe I'll cut one of these out and save it for another time. But we were talking about this earlier, and I was supposed to talk about it on this podcast. And I wanted to talk about how much fun it was to do our reenactment of the Burbs out on the front porch. And that was during COVID, right? That was when...
Yeah, I think so.
When we were, not supposed to go anywhere kind of stuff, all that... stay in your house crap. I think that's when we did that. But I had a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah, I'm still wondering where the clip is of whoever it was driving the garbage out to the end of the driveway, because that's
me.
not. Yeah, but it's not in the original video that's posted.
Oh,
but I think it's
it
because. Wasn't it because when I was standing out there was a coyote behind me under the street light?
You were. I remember you being quite the trooper because you said there was, but you didn't move. But
I thought it was,
that whole video clip of me banging the garbage with the stick, it's all there.
I didn't see
know what? If you want, I can edit it because it's a very long drive down the drive. If you remember, it felt like it took an hour. But I did post that recently on Facebook, and I'll pull it back up again because. Yeah, that was a good time, all those videos. I remember maybe there was we had to do a bunch of takes because one of the people in our group wasn't so savvy at acting. I don't want to mention any names like Jenny, but she was having a hard time. She's not here, so she can't defend herself. So, hey, it's just like we're on social media. Let's talk about the person that's not in the room. She did the best she could with that Kansas City Chiefs hat she had on, she was Rumsfeld, right? Was she Rumsfeld, and who was I? You were Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
And I was...
Wait, is Rumsfeld the guy that there go the goddamn brownies?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Rumsfeld. Yeah, she's like, scope me.
Yes, that was... Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, she was Rumsfeld, and you were, what was Tom Hanks' character's name? I can't think of it right now. Whatever's, Ray.
No, Ray was his friend.
Was I Ray?
You were Ray.
I was Ray?
Yes.
And you were his friend, the guy that came in and ate all his breakfast?
Wait, no, Ray...
Ray is the main character. That's Tom Hanks.
Okay, I was Ray. And then you were the guy with the...
Because they came to ask him, hey, Carol, can Ray come out today? No, he can't come out until he resembles a man that was my husband or whatever. Remember that? And then they kicked the ground like they're little kids. Yeah, I think you were Ray because you were the person saying, I say we go get a look at those garbage cans. Or was that me?
Yeah, it was you. I'm the one that says, like, I've never seen that before.
Oh, that was me. I was like, yeah, no headlights. Was that right? Yeah, that was, I was the fat guy.
Yeah.
Well, it's fitting. Like, I'm the fat guy, so I played the role correctly. But then I was also the creepy guy because I drove the garbage down to the road.
Right.
So I had multiple roles. So clearly, I'm the most talented of the group.
Okay.
I don't think there's any question. I think you have to give me some sort of Oscar or something because I played multiple roles.
I'll give you a Dundee.
And I was the director. Yeah, I want a Dundee. I'll take that. I'll take any kind of award I can get because nobody ever gives me awards, man. I do all the stuff and I got to make my own damn awards.
Yeah, no, it was a good time. I think more people need to watch The Burbs. So many movies that you guys introduced me to that I now share with all of my friends because they're just, it's great. I mean,
I call them classics. I mean, we call them, and every generation has their classics.
yeah,
But movies aren't the same anymore as they were. I mean, they change, and they change for whatever reason. I think they try to make movies to appeal to whatever generation that's going to spend the money on them.
right.
So, but yeah, back in the day, man, Caddyshack and The Burbs and Major League, and I could go on and on about those. Maybe I'll have to have somebody on like Joe Crenshaw to talk about all those, because I'm sure Joe Crenshaw won't be a stiff at all on a podcast. So that's just me goading him to come on my podcast. So anyways, well, it was really nice talking with you, and I appreciate you coming on and taking whatever, an hour probably so that we spent talking about stuff here, just impromptu, and helping me figure out what I'm doing here, because I don't know, I had a good time and I want to do this more, and I hope other people enjoy it, because maybe I'll be fucking rich someday.
Maybe. And then you can share some with the, thanks for having me. I'm happy to get this started, and hopefully you'll have some cool people come on.
Yeah. All right. Well, bye. Bean soupy makes me poopy.